We have all the commissioners present. Staff are still joining in, but I think we can get started if you'd like.
Okay. Chris, if worst comes to worst, you can call in by your cell too, which is what I had to do the last time when things went wrong.
No, I've got the audio. I just it's trying to see the documents.
Got it. Okay. Well, with that, let's begin. The June 26, 2020 Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting is now in session. It's noted for. Pardon me, Barry, did you want me to stop?
No, that was not me.
Okay. I'll continue. It's noted for the record that commissioners are attending this meeting via a web meeting, and a quorum of commissioners is present for today's meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet, and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel?
Here.
Commissioner Telfer?
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Here.
Chair Safoff?
Here. Will the clerk also inform the commission of who else is in the meeting?
Yes.
If you can.
Director Barry Pack, Harshad Aladadi, Kathy Ortega, Kathy Stromberg, Lindsay Peterson, Matt Shelby, Shad Barnes, Tiffany Lineker, and Nate Carter from DOJ.
Okay, thanks. Let's move to public comment. Members of the public have the opportunity to provide written public comment to the commission for this meeting. A full copy of the comments were provided to the commissioners in advance of the meeting, and they will be posted on the commission meeting website. And in this way, we make them available for all of the public and any other interested stakeholders to review. Will the clerk please read a summary or the public comments that were received for the record?
Yes. Kitty Martz, an Oregonian advocate and person in recovery from Oregon video lottery terminal addiction, provided the following comments. 1, I object to being censored and having only summary sound bites read in the public forum portion of the Oregon Lottery Commission meeting. This is but one more way you are failing to allow transparent communication with the public. 2, well done with the Play It Safe campaign. Your creative team consistently delivers savvy media products. You'll remember that as someone who interacts daily with people who suffer from addiction to your video lottery terminals, I've asked this agency to please pivot your responsible gambling marketing strategies to address the unique challenges associated with COVID-19. I was concerned about stimulus and sizable unemployment checks being senselessly gambled away into the VLT machines, shifts in tolerance, post-acute withdrawal syndrome, isolation, or financial pressures. Instead of focusing your efforts on how we can purchase more scratch-it tickets safely, a cost-effective, wide-reaching marketing campaign should have targeted VLT players for thoughtfully re-entering the playing field. 3, I object to your attempts to add a highly addictive mode of play onto scoreboard under the guise of it being eligible for treatment as a temporary administrative rule. Please see the letter that was distributed to you from Nathan Reitman detailing why it is not. 4, the public would like to hear Director Pack's decision about whether or not virtual sports will be launched on scoreboard or when that decision will be made. It has been made clear by both Director Pack and Matt Shelby that it is Director Pack's decision. This commission, the legislature, impartial gambling experts, researchers, and Oregonians at large have been made well aware that we have zero say in this matter. On behalf of the dozens of individuals and organizations who wrote letters objecting to this move, we would appreciate some open communication on this topic. 5, please let it go on record that lottery officials claiming that virtual sports are a new market on an existing platform are complicit in causing harm, and that they have been informed of the significantly higher addiction rate for virtual sports. It's concerning that your staff complacently recites this party line, along with referring to the pursuing the temporary rules process as a modest adjustment. This gives advocates great pause for trusting the Oregon Lottery in the future. Thank you. And that was the only comment received.
Thanks, Elisa. Okay. Let's move on the agenda to Commissioner Communications. Are there any communications from any of the commissioners? Director Pack, I just wanted to say again that I know this is a very, very difficult time for all Oregonians, for the nation. I know it's a difficult time for the lottery, and I appreciate all of the work that the lottery has been doing to keep the functions of the lottery going forward and to address issues of diversity and inclusion that we're all taking time to rethink and move forward on. So I wanted to just say that I appreciate what you and your team are doing, Barry. With that, we'll move to Director Pack's report.
Thank you, Chair Sethleff. Good morning, everyone. I'll start with a little lottery news and the reopening of restaurants and bars and our retailers. As you know, the governor has moved cautiously to reopen Oregon counties. This past month, lottery staff from across the agency came together to help our video lottery retailers begin to reopen while adhering to new public health operating requirements. It was and continues to be a major endeavor for both headquarters and field staff across the state. I'm proud of the level of commitment and creativity displayed, reimagining the way we communicate with retailers, developing a new process for managing VLTs, and problem solving on-site to enable as many terminals as possible, as safely as possible. As part of our focus on digital transformation, we launched a new lottery website this month. You'll hear more from staff later in the meeting, so I promise not to steal their thunder. I just want to acknowledge the tremendous effort poured into this project over the past year. The new site looks better, but more importantly, gives players and others easy access to the most sought-after information. Great job, everyone. From a sales perspective, staff will provide a thorough sales update later in the meeting, but overall, while not quite rosy, our sales picture is substantially better than last month. Overall revenue was down 9% year over year last week, much better than the past 3 months. And over the weekend and with the entire state reopened for at least phase 1 guidance, video lottery revenue was approximately 89% of the volume it was in 2019 during the same weekend. Scratch It sales are still very strong, but losing steam with the reopening of video lottery. Keno has returned to pre-COVID levels, and the recent $400+ million Mega Millions jackpot helped out with otherwise fairly standard jackpot game performance. I haven't shared any winter stories with you for a while as we've been adapting to the pandemic, but I have 3 today. When Sabrina Welch gets off work at the Chevron on 170th in Aloha, she likes to buy a few Scratch-Its to take home with her. One of her favorite ways to pick which Scratch-Its she buys is to use the age-old method of choosing. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Quote, I was deciding which games to play and was going, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, said Sabrina. My coworker behind the counter pointed to the Casino Royale Scratch-It and said, pick this one. So I did. After taking her tickets home and scratching them, she soon discovered she had chosen the right ticket when her Casino Royale ticket revealed she had won the game's $50,000 top prize. I couldn't believe it, she said. I showed my son and asked him what he thought, and he agreed with me. I ended up taking the ticket back to work and used the lottery ticket scanner, and it said I'd won $50,000. Peter Malone of Portland was home with his wife watching TV when they played a lottery Scratch-It and realized they'd won $200,000. Quote, I buy the tickets and then she plays them, Malone said. We were watching the show, she plays it and said she thought she won $200. She didn't have her glasses on, then she thought we won $2,000. When I looked at it, I was pretty sure we won $200,000. Malone purchased the $20 triple golden cherry Scratch-It at the Milwaukee Safeway while getting groceries. He said he downloaded the Oregon Lottery mobile app to check the ticket to make absolutely sure he won. Malone said the couple were looking for their first house, and with the prize, they're going to be able to have enough for a down payment without having to pay mortgage insurance. Finally, Charlene Asher of Portland has a weekly routine. Each Sunday, she purchases her lottery tickets for the week. at a local restaurant and then checks them as the drawings happen. With the recent business closures, Asher had to purchase her weekly games at the convenience store down the road instead. Asher will now receive the Win for Life top prize of $1,000 a week for life, or in her case, $52,000 each year. However, she doesn't plan on making many changes to her life. Quote, "I lost my sweetheart a year ago and I traveled with him," she said. "I plan on staying home and working on my yard. It will be the best yard on the street." Asher said she had already scheduled some concrete work for her yard before winning the prize, and it was nice to know that it was paid for. "I already splurged," she laughed. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Thanks, Barry. Questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, let's move to the minutes. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on May 29th, 2020 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Okay, with that, I know that Kathy Ortega is on the line, so let's move to the financial report.
Yes, good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery. I'm assuming everyone can hear me okay. But we're here today to go over two items, the first of which is our financial report for May 2020, which represents 11 months of our fiscal year, only one more to go. And if you would all take a look at your materials that were provided, I'm going to start with the monthly operating statement for May. We had $32.1 million of revenue on a budget of 23.4. We were favorable. And let me just pause to say the reason that we're favorable is because this is reporting against the forecast provided by the Oregon Economics group, and it did not include as much video revenue as what we're seeing. All of the variances that you're seeing are positive, except commissions, which we always have when there's higher revenue than the budget. Salaries, wages, and benefits, we have a slight negative variance for accruals that we're anticipating to get us to a year-end number for the unfunded PERS liability. And on the net profit line, while I'm happy to report that we did make a profit for the month of May of $11.5 million, normally that number would have been somewhere between 50 and 60 million, but the good news is that with the aid of some of the video openings and revenue coming back, we did make a slight profit for the month. On the year-to-date basis, we have $848.2 million in revenue, $8.7 million favorable. And I just discussed on the month all of the variances. And on the net profit line, we had $523.6 million, which is $64.4 million favorable to budget. On the services and supplies schedule that you're seeing, this the number for the month represents what I previously reported, which was the situation that we had agreed to absorb the telecom expenses for the retailers for the month of May. That absorption of expense ended with the month of May. You will not see that going forward. And I do have the balance sheet for you today as of May 31st. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the report for May.
Questions or comments from the commission? Kathy, I just wanted to note a couple things that I actually am seeing running through all of the staff reports as well, and I think it's I just feel the need to acknowledge that. One, even though obviously these are not the projections that we all hoped for when we started the year, I'm pretty pleased that, well, one, we're beating the forecast. I think that's really significant that although we've been forecasting certain numbers, that we're doing better than that. The other thing that's almost more important to me that I wanted to acknowledge is that often on the commission, we've all talked about the need to have sort of integrity in our forecasting. And I have to say that when we started this, the lottery gave us some forecasts about what they thought might happen with respect to COVID. And this was a new situation. And of course, we all sort of weren't sure of all the variables. But the thing that impresses me is that even the amount down and our reduction in revenue and so on is within the forecast that you've all been telling us you expected. So just with respect to integrity of the process, I really want to applaud all of you. It gives us some comfort. So thank you. And then with that, is there a motion to, Kathy, you want me to go ahead with the motion? Anything
Yes,
else?
please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the monthly financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for month ended May 31st, 2020 be approved for the record as presented today.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Satthoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Okay, Kathy, on the budget?
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, we've got a budget that we are presenting for approval today, which represents what we think our operations are going to look like as best as we can at this point for fiscal year 2020. We did have conversations about this previously, and so I am just going to review and get on the record just a few highlights about this budget. As I mentioned in some of our prior conversations, the way that we approached this budget was a bit different. And what we did was we took a look at this, given where we are with COVID, what could we afford budget and what is our cash position, making certain assumptions of affordability, and then walking back and providing the organization direction about what we needed to do for next year and how the guidelines on what operations are going to look like. That resulted in what we call a bare bones budget, meaning we have stripped out a lot of the discretionary spending that we normally incur, and it's keeping the lights on, but yet keeping the organization poised for a strong comeback and financial viability. I will get into in a moment what we think our cash position is going to look like as a result of the profit or loss statement that was provided to you. But basically, let me just highlight that the profit or loss statement does include for 21 the revenues from the same OEA forecast that we were talking about that we're working under for actuals. And so that is giving us a decreased revenue picture of about 828.7 million, whereas normally we would be up in the 800, almost $900 million range for comparison purposes. Given that revenue scenario, we then took a look at expenses and what was affordable given that revenue drop. Things like commissions and game vendor charges were based on the revenue projection for those contracts that are directly tied to revenue variances. In other words, they vary as a result of revenue. And so we've included those numbers. It does include scoreboard for a period of time during the year, representing a comeback of that product line in the commissions and the game vendor charges. In terms of some of the other areas of spending, such as advertising, public information, these budgets have been significantly decreased from what you have seen in the past, but that is as a result of very deliberate effort to continue to get messaging and information about the products and some of our corporate responsibility programs to the public in a more cost-effective and efficient manner, i.e. digital. So you're looking at significant reductions in advertising to the tune of about $7.9 million for the year on what normally would have been an $11 or $12 million budget. And the same thing with public information, about $2 million where normally we would have spent $4. And again, that wasn't decreasing the content of what we're putting out there. It was increasing the cost effectiveness of how we're doing the messaging. In terms of other line items, our salaries and benefits include 2 months of furloughs, layoffs, and salary reductions that we had started even before fiscal 21. It does not include raises, bonuses, or any increases for the year. Under services and supplies, we have cut that number significantly down from normally you'd see something in the range of $25 to $32 million. We have cut that to a bare bones budget. We are going to fund our projects of $28 million out of reserves next year, so they're not showing up in this line. But we have significantly cut all of the discretionary spending for things like out-of-state travel. Those were considered not eligible for spend in 2020. A lot of our training is drastically reduced. We're only including things for conferences, for those individuals that have licenses or professional certifications required by their job descriptions. Anything beyond that was cut. We have cut significantly on things like office supplies, shipping, anything where the spend was not absolutely essential to keeping the lights on and keeping the organization viable. We have cut, even to the tune of things like computer equipment. We're only doing breakage and not ongoing replacement. And that goes for such capital items as autos. We are not replacing any autos next year as well. So there's significant cost cuts throughout the spending in the organization. And that will enable us to still make a profit, cover our transfers. And when we get to the end of next year, what I'm projecting, and there's a big P on that projection, is that we should end the year with a contingency just slightly below that $60 million mark that we strive not to go below. It'll be in the $54 to $60 million range. I do believe we should be able to hit that $60 million range because our revenues do seem to be at this point in our experience with the COVID virus. We are still exceeding what was in the forecast. So I do believe we will hit that $60 million number. And after we pay for investments in our projects of $28 million, we should have $65 million to continue the investments on our roadmap that we've shared with you, representing the ongoing continuation of modernizing our systems to keep the organization viable and offering revenue generating products in the future. And the only other thing that I would add to my comments about the budget for next year, we only have 2 capital acquisitions that we're anticipating, which I have set aside for contractually. We are going to be spending about 20, and you've heard of these before, we're going to be spending $27 million on replacing the traditional equipment under the Aurora upgrade project. And we will also be investing about $11 million in new VLTs next year. Let me also go back. I did skip over game equipment parts and maintenance because that's where our game refreshes appear. Normally we have somewhere between 12 and 16 million in game refreshes in our budget, and we've cut that back to about $7 million, which has been included in game equipment parts and maintenance for next year. Part of that is we want to only refresh the games when we see that there's a revenue need for that. And with the addition of starting to replace some of the VLTs, they come with initial game sets. So there is a reduced need for investments until those game sets require until those VLTs require refreshes. As you can see from your materials, we are going to be operating at an admin expense ratio of about 3.4 million, up slightly from where we were pre-COVID, but still well within the 16% limitation that we have on our spending for our operations. With that, I think I've hit some of the high points. Director Pack, I don't know if you want to make any additional comments on the budget for 2021, excuse me.
No, Kathy, thank you. I think both of us are just prepared to answer any questions from the commission.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to, before I open for questions, I do want to note that for the record that I very much appreciate that Kathy and Barry had taken the time to walk each of us individually through this new approach and this budget prior to this meeting. It was very helpful. You answered my questions, and I'm sure you've answered many of the other commissioners' questions. With that, I will just open this up and see if the commission as a whole has any further question or comment that they'd like to make at this time regarding the budget. Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the fiscal year 21 lottery budget?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission adopt the lottery's proposed budget for fiscal year 21 as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. I should have asked before we did this, but Barry, my understanding is as well that part of this new approach is that in order to stay fluid and flexible with what's going on in the with COVID and other issues, that the plan is to possibly be reviewing this the budget quarterly, or at least periodically, in case we have to make further changes. Is that still true?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sathoff. I realized that I had neglected to mention that as well. Yes, our plan is to come to you quarterly with any adjustments that we recommend based on changing circumstances. I think the greatest risk is, as I know you and I have talked about, is the potential resurgence of the virus and a sliding backward to where restaurants close again.
Right.
That might make us make additional adjustments to our expenditures. On the flip side, if things continue to move forward as they are right now, we may see increases in revenue and be able to invest in some of the things that were cut.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Kathy. And so I think with that, we'll move to staff updates. And I believe I heard that both Lindsay Peterson and Shad Barnes are on the call. Is that who will be talking to us?
Yep.
Great.
I think they'll be sharing the screen.
Hi, this is Kathy Stromberg, Chair Sadoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. Yes, we have two updates today to provide for you guys. One is on the ongoing reopening, and Lindsay is on the line to give you that update. And Shad will be giving you an update on the new website.
Thanks, Kathy.
All right.
Good morning, Chair Sackhoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Lindsay Peterson. I am the manager of the gaming products portfolio for the lottery. Wanted to provide a reopening update for you guys today. I provided one last month and wanted to give an update now that all the counties are up and running. Just a few slides to show you what's happening out in the field. Last weekend was the first weekend that our entire state was reopened. So that was after Multnomah opened their doors on Friday the 19th. So for that weekend, we did $7.3 million in revenue, which was 89% of pre-COVID. I will note that there was some softening of revenue in Clackamas and Washington counties, which showed maybe some cross pollination of people going to play in the counties that were open and then migrating back to Multnomah once they were open. So we're seeing that level out a bit. There were also a couple of counties like Union and Lincoln who had some additional new outbreaks, and some retailers went back to takeout only or to being closed. And so we also saw some dips in revenue in those two counties. Right now we have about 350 retailers statewide that are still considered active selling retailers, but that haven't had any sales through the VLTs since reopening began. So this is the overview slide. All 36 counties now open. Total of $62.8 million in revenue since the reopening began. If you see down at the bottom, there's a graph there that shows where we were. You saw that shows that big gaping hole that we are now starting to climb out of, but we have a lot of work to do to make up for that, which is a lot of that budgeting and some of those other things we're doing to try to make up for that. But revenue is trending up right now. And we have about 87% of our retailers active across the state. Multnomah County specifically started on Friday with 83% of their VLTs enabled. This is a high percentage of VLTs to have open or to have start on opening day. It's the best yet. It really speaks to some of the work we've done in the field to get some moves and help with distancing and things like that ahead of time. So going strong up there in Multnomah specifically. And 77% of our VLTs pre-COVID are reporting revenue. This is a number, the 289 that we have shared historically, that has softened. That used to be in the 300s revenue. This is per VLT per day. And as more and more retailers and VLTs are opening up, that's starting to go back down to a bit of a normal number for us across the board. But our VLTs are still working very hard, but players are starting to have more options and more choices, and that play is starting to level out. As of Sunday, we have had over 1,500 retailers call in and ask us to move VLTs to help with social distancing and allow them to turn on as many as possible. We've completed almost 1,300 of those, so our field staff has been working feverishly at ticking off the boxes here. Interestingly, if you look at the column with kind of the green highlights, these are built into cohorts of when these counties open, but basically if you look at the top one, 60% of the VLTs were up and running when they reopened, and we're up to 75% in those first 31 counties. So again, this shows the progress we've made in terms of the ability to move terminals around, provide additional room at these locations, and continue providing a safe play environment. And you can see those numbers go across the board on all the cohorts.
Lindsay, on the moving the VLTs around, do most of these places have a footprint that will allow them to keep the same number of VLTs open, but provide the social distancing necessary, or are they having to shut one or two VLTs down in order to get the social distancing, or do we know?
It's a combination. So what's interesting is, like, if you look at that 60%, the day that we reopened, we had to turn several VLTs off in order to allow distancing, but they did have several of them, many of them had the footprint. We just had to go out and send our technicians out and actually move the terminals apart, rerun some fiber and things like that in order to allow for the VLTs to be further apart, because they're not naturally set that way in a lot of these environments. So I would say that's how we got up to 75% in those areas. So I think there's a good mix. There are a lot of retailers, you know, like say Sherry's, for example, they have very small playrooms and there just isn't that ability. So we've got terminals turned off, you know, to allow for distancing. But several of them had the space and we just had to go out and make the moves. It may not be ideal out there. They may be situated, you know, strangely like that, but they're up and running and available.
Thanks.
So this is just to give you just an update on how we're performing to the new forecast that came out when we learned we were reopening. We are outperforming, like I said earlier, 62.8 million to date. Our forecast through this quarter would have been 24.4 million. And our current run rate has us at 384 million through January. Obviously, things could change based on what happens going forward. And this will get adjusted accordingly. Again, it's good news, but it also, we have that big gap that we need to make up for. So the fact that we are outperforming what the forecast does not yet fill in the hole that we did lose during the downtime. So cautiously optimistic here. That's it for video. Does anyone have any questions for me before I pass it to Shad?
Thanks, Lindsay. Questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, let's go to the website refresh.
Good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Shad Barnes. I'm the Senior Director, Digital Marketing here at the Oregon Lottery. Hey, I want to apologize in advance. The dog over my fence at my neighbor's house is a little extra spicy today. So if you guys hear a lot of dog barking, I apologize. But I'm here today to talk about our recent relaunch of Oregonlattery.org. If we, just to kind of give you some indication, it's very nice. It looks really pleasing. It's very much a more modern kind of approach to design. But it's more than a pretty face. So we really built a very strong technical structure, a very strong, secure website, and added a level of kind of modern scalability that we've never had before. So, and a lot of this is just to accommodate the future of digital transformation that I'm sure all of you are familiar with the conversations we've been having about kind of modernizing where we move as a lottery. So next slide. One of the things you may notice if you browse the site is that it's really quite good, well built from a mobile perspective. We know from our analytics that about 75% of our usage comes via mobile device. That's no secret. Everybody kind of has one in their hands today. And we put a great amount of work into really making sure that it's a winning experience for people when they're on a mobile device. It's faster, it's greatly simplified, just a lot easier and really more optimized for mobile than our prior site revisions. A lot of this equates to some nice labor savings, specifically for my team, but really across the entire agency. Our prior site had a lot of customization that needed to happen in order for us to build out pages and, you know, touts to things like new games. We really didn't have a great navigational structure. There just was a lot that was to be desired in terms of our kind of prior website. So what we've built is really a very flexible kind of way for us to be efficient. We've got some very modern tools that make it easier for folks to kind of upload new content daily, even hourly. And we rely on some technology to kind of bring data to the model that really expedites and creates more efficiency. And I will tell you that as we stand today, we lean a lot into kind of automation and modernization to say the things we say and communicate the way we do on the site. And that's a place where we have a tremendous roadmap towards the future as well. So one of the other kind of things that we've really invested some time in around the technology and really around how we kind of build content is we all live in a what's in it for me world at a certain point. And while some of our messaging, it was really difficult based on the labor and the customization and the time for us to get into a lot of the community-centric stories, the things that really matter to people across our geographically diverse state. Because as you know, the money the lottery generates benefits every county across Oregon. And so we've spent some great time in building out a framework where we can zoom in on community-based narrative, be that through where the money goes, be that through gameplay. It's going to be a much more community-centric kind of system than we've ever had. And regardless of whether you live in Lane County or Malheur County or Multnomah County, the stories are interesting and really much more of a lens of what's in it for me than a big box, big dollar kind of narrative. One thing that I'm very proud of in the way that we put this site together is really kind of beginning to see greater extension in the collaboration internally with our teams. We demolished a ton of silos in the way we work together, learned to kind of speak the same language in a lot of the ways we communicate, opened up more of an open kind of dialogue around healthy debate than I think we've ever had in a project I've worked on at the lottery in my kind of 7 years at the lottery. And really started to kind of build out some competency towards kind of future-based, cloud-based architecture. So many of the services we ran on our website lived on servers internally at the lottery, which were time-consuming and expensive and not as scalable, meaning not as many people could visit the site if we had a massive jackpot or something where we get lots of traffic to the site. And that competency around cloud is really the future of where everything is heading. And we now have greater competency across all of our teams in that environment than we did when we started. So yes, we have a brand new website, but we've also got a workforce that is far more tuned to the future today because of this project. And that's a really important piece to the work we did.
Shad, could you take a minute and this slide and the slide prior both mention our partners. And I know that at times we've heard some tension with a lot of the modernization and the things, the digital move and our direction from our partners. It sounds like from this presentation that we've been reaching out, trying to collaborate. Are we seeing benefit to our partners? We've said that there will be benefit to our partners, and I realize that sometimes it might be a little bit too soon to tell, but I worry. I want to make sure our partners in this venture are going to start seeing some benefit as well. And I know you say that there's been some good collaboration here. Can you comment on that?
Sure. So, Chair, when you say partners, can you give me a little more specific? Because I think my definition of partners is sometimes the vendors we use, sometimes the other agencies we work with. So
I noticed, yeah, well, I'm glad you raised it. I noticed that the partners on your slides really are probably our vendors and sales partners. So this might be a comment that we have to take up with someone else on the team or maybe at another time, Barry. This question of whether the retailers are feeling that they're getting some benefit out of some of the direction we're going in. And if we can't answer that today, that's fine. I just want to make sure going forward that we take that up.
Yeah, I'm happy to give you a little insight.
Chad. Oh, go ahead, Chad.
Go ahead. So I will tell you that that there's a tremendous chunk of ground that we covered in terms of finding ways to drive traffic to retail in terms of those partners within even this first release. But one of the things I'd mention is that this very much is a foundation. So we have, now that this site is done, we have some concepting and consideration around stronger retail portal. This tool gives us the ability to kind of get there with that. But I will tell you that the way that we even kind of preface retailers. And when I talk about cross-departmental collaboration, one of the things, we didn't have great images even of a lot of our retail locations. So we worked with our FSR group to go out and get an image of every single door of every single location where our products are sold, and started to kind of take on more of this inspiration from a Yelp kind of perspective, where we're giving greater detail, greater information about each retail location, down to specific products they sell at a certain point. And that, I didn't want to get too in the weeds with some of this, but the data that I talked about earlier that we can tie into really gets us closer to being able to say, almost as Aurora comes along, what the inventory levels are of a product. So if I'm a consumer and I'm looking for one specific ticket, I might be able to, at a certain point, or at least part of our roadmap is, and this isn't today, but at a certain point, get to a place where that may be available only at 2 or 3 of these retailers, and I can find them specifically using information on the website to do that. So there's a lot of consideration put into driving traffic to retail within this customer first tool.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Barry, I'm sorry. Did you have another thing? I didn't want to.
No, Shad, you did great. Thanks.
Okay. So one of the things is around enhanced analytics and communications, kind of nice segue from what I just told you, is we have a lot more data internally to lean into, but we also have a lot of data that generates out of usage of this site. So when I say flexible, it might be that the order or the hierarchy or the information we give, the analytics might tell us that we're not doing this for a customer in the best possible manner. And because we've built such a flexible framework, we're able to make adjustments quickly. And I have one tangible example already since the launch. And I'm going to talk in a second about testing. Even though we did tons of user testing, it was really valuable for us to go through and talk to players and kind of figure out kind of how can they get to the information they get easier. There were a couple of buttons on our site that we went through all the testing, and they found the information they needed. But we learned from our early analytics that they were having kind of a hard time finding some past results on some draw games. We already made an adjustment to this, and we've already kind of, had a fixed solution in place. And this is really the future, is just trying to kind of make this more personal to consumer and really get them in front of the information they seek in a kind of responsive and quick manner. And all of that equates to just better informed decision making for us and how we do our job customer first for players and our audience in general. Another important thing that I'm really kind of proud of and how we approach this is worked with Stacy's team in product marketing with the RG team, and really took a new approach to responsible gaming and the way we communicate that. Where in the past, it may have been a button and a page that just kind of talked about, one thing in general. We've really put a lot of care into weaving RG into every bit of communication we put on this site, whether it's tonality and copy, the way we put the images in, and a lot of work put into how to play on all of these games. And, they're simple games to play, but within this, we built out a modern kind of way of showing people how video lottery works, and took kind of time to explain some of the responsible angles when you play. So, for instance, on this kind of slide I have, there's an image there that gives you some key to say, make note of the time. There's always a clock on the screen, so you don't lose track of it, and tap that button to enjoy the ride. Trading your bet amount for a chance to win. So that's just like one tiny example of really thousands of places across the site where we've taken care to make sure that the information and the knowledge-based stuff is there for players as they get in. And we hope to continue to expand that greatly again over the next couple of years as we learn from the analytics. So I mentioned testing. I won't spend a lot of time on this one. We really left no stones unturned in trying to really exceed site performance goals and customer expectations, moving from a more traditional in-house server approach to a cloud-based approach, really put a lot of pressure on us to make sure that everything was smooth and ready for launch. And we leaned into consultation, worked with some partners for lab-conducted quality assurance, and really put in so much kind of concerted effort, and again, cross-departmental effort to make sure that we had a good tool that launched when we did. So then that kind of leaves us with just a little smattering of what's next. Well, what's next is a lot. I could probably spend an hour talking to you guys about what's next. But in the near future, we hope to kind of build in a My Lottery interface, which, as you know, we launched a mobile app a while back. We have other products that are moving closer to some digital. We are looking at expanding how we work with our Second Chance product to make it easier for users to utilize that way to play. And so we've kind of begun to integrate some of the reporting on the gameplay that players care about. And there will be a My Lottery section coming soon in our next revision of the site. We are going to enhance our engagement. This includes things like quizzes, demos, play for fun, and a lot of interactive things like RG tips and tools. We really want to get to a self-serve public records request so that folks have easy access to the information from a public records perspective that they want. That's also a nice labor savings opportunity for us internally. And as I mentioned before, we are going to focus heavily on how can we better communicate with our retail partners. Any questions?
Shad, I have one question, and that is on this slide. The rollout over the next year, is this going to be, I'm kind of thinking in terms of timing. Is there a big launch and everything rolls out at once? And if so, what quarter are we thinking of? Or are these pieces going to be rolled out? I'm particularly looking forward to the self-serve public records request. Are they rolling out in pieces, and are you just going to let us know when a piece comes up? How is the timing going to work on this?
Yeah, so the big launch happened, and back to kind of that early notion of this flexible framework where we're going to be consistently making small adjustments. Some things will look bigger to player and the public than others, but we have some meetings next week, frankly, to really scope that self-serve public records request, and it'll have a launch with a lot of kind of roadway ahead of it, but it's very much something that will trickle out in small bits.
Great. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission on the website launch? Refresh. Hearing none, I guess I will open this up for other business. Is there other business that the commission would like to discuss, or any Director Pack or any of the staff at this time? I just wanted to acknowledge, I didn't know if I'd seen this before, but Barry, thanks for the report regarding the retailer contract approval summary. I don't know if I've missed that before, but I did see it this time, and I appreciated that. So with that, this concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is scheduled on July 24th. Thank you all for attending, and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.